we're just gonna start with name and number of years in the local.
I've been in the local for just over 20 years, and my name is Sam Curreri. I'm running for business manager of Local 24.
Gotcha. And so we've asked everybody, what's your most proud achievement during your time in the local?
Proudest achievement has got to be becoming president. I mean, there's many. Organizing each and every member that I organize, the companies I'm organizing, our relationships with, it's basically been relationship making. Having the opportunity to create these relationships with different locals, different companies, and different members has really embodied the fraternal organization and brothers and sisters. So my pride is in the relationships.
All right. So as far as you're running for business manager,
That's right.
what's your number? If you had three goals for the end, what would they be?
Three goals. So let's say number one, uh, getting back to basics. I'm gonna go back to relationships. Uh, Making sure that everybody knows that IBW is somebody they can count on when they call on us, and we'll be there. Whether it be IBW problems, or be any other local union problems, or any community problems. So that's number one. Obviously, we have an influx of work right now, manning these calls, not just for the contractors, but for the community. So that'd be one and two. And then three is continuing to target work in all of our jurisdictions and not making sure that we're just concentrating in one part, whether it be the western part, central part, Baltimore, or making sure we spread that off and the resources are allocated evenly. So that'd be my three major goals.
Interested in allocating the resources evenly. That sounds really good. Only 24 hours in the day. How do you uh, plan to manage your time to be able to cover increasing resources to places that you want to see more time, Eastern Shore, Baltimore City, um, as well as maintain the improvements being made in Frederick, such like that? How do you see it?
So appreciate that. I live and breathe this. It's every weekend. It's every day. It's every night. Uh, that's not fair. That's not fair to the people who work here. It's not fair to the staff. It's not fair to ask people that are out in the field to do that. But what we want to do is this staff. What I would want to do is increase the staff. This is the time to do it. We need to make sure that we have organizers on staff that are going to get out in the field, be on the jobs, and make sure they're making those connections. Again, I'm going to keep going back to these relationships and making sure these people know that they can trust us, that we can do the work for them, and if they're going to do the work for the contractors, and that's it. So that's the big thing is making sure people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Take the energy that I know people have here already and focus. And then there's going to have to be some additional staff. There really is. There's going to be some changes just because of retirement. There's going to be some changes on the Eastern Shore or folks that have been a staple here for a long time. We've got to get somebody up to speed to take that over. And then people have asked me, and I don't mind saying this, like, well, what are you going to do? Who are you going to bring in? We don't have to flush the toilet. I know there's talent. So the idea is to make sure that the people that are doing what they're supposed to be doing are encouraged to know that I'm going to continue to foster that. And then the folks that I think are going in a direction that may not be as productive as I think it should be, sort of focus and coach them into the right direction.
As a business manager, you're going for business manager, but as president, you're responsible for appointing people to certain positions. Was there anybody that you appointed to a position um, outside directly from membership who may not have experienced that you had an example of coaching those people from just rank and file to a membership in the hall position as a staff?
You're asking me if there's somebody on staff that I brought in and coached and you can reference.
Yeah, that you can reference that for people.
I think most people on staff would tell you that I've been there tried to lead them in a direction or give them hope. You do what you think is right here, but this is how I would do it, and maybe think about this before you make your decision. That's the way I go about it. I'm not so much like I'm not in a position to tell people what to do so far. So I mean, I'll always refer to as long as the business manager is improving it because he's running the show, and they know that. So the thing is, but this is the direction I would go with it. And think about this, and if you haven't read this, there's some examples I would mention. Um, and, Carmen, he came forward as an agent. after I became an agent, or maybe when I was right before I became an attorney. So I was 2021, and I think he would be a good advocate to let you know that every time he needed something, or when he filed his first grievance, or when he went back to situations he's never been in, or help me understand the way this reads. Do you think that I'm understanding this correctly? You could ask all the law. So I think he would tell you that.
So you see coming into the future, knowing that you're going to be expanding the staff, you see opportunity for, rank and file members that are, showing brotherhood, showing that they want to be part of this union, that pulling them up and training them to be able to be in these positions, since we're definitely going to need more people.
I think that's a great thing, right? Like when people see, we go through phases, right, where people get in there and they become part of the furniture in the building, and that's the running joke. But what you want to do is you want to bring people in, you want to show them you have an opportunity. And you've got young members bringing resolutions and to the meeting and to the executive board, things that are important to them. It's important to know that I advocate for that kind of action and that people should be involved in this local union, and making sure that when it comes a time that's going to pay off, and you're not just wasting your time, wasting your breath. So it's important that we continue to build these folks up. The future of this local is those folks that put their thoughts into action.
Why do you think that a lot of members aren't involved in
Well, it's driven by many different people. It could be personal. It could be their schedule outside of work, and I don't blame anybody. So if you're not involved in the local, I'm not angry with you, but we do have to foster the folks that are. So to say why people aren't, there may be reasons that are due to how are things working here, policy, bylaws, that they say this isn't for me. But I think that's the few. The majority, are going to be folks that just can't allocate their time, whether it be sick grandmother, or I'm taking care of two at home, but I got to go to work and I'm also in school. So there's a lot of things that you can't overlook because it's not for everybody. It is not for everybody. But when we find some that diamond in the rough, where it's like this person gets it, not only gets it, has the time and knows about the resources, you've got to bring that in. You got to bring that in.
So the business manager is responsible for negotiating.
That's correct.
What are your goals for the next contract?
Well,
because that's the big one.
So there are big ones, right? So that is a big one. So the Labor Management Committee, the LMC, is typically who negotiates the largest contract we have, obviously, is Baltimore. And then you have subsidiary. But Baltimore contract is what we're talking about for this moment. But there's some things that people have brought up to me. It's not so much what my goals are, but being receptive to everybody and know what their goals are. Because I've seen the trends change on us, where when I first got in, I think the biggest priority was how much can you get into that check, right? And that was it. That's all I ever thought people were talking about in the job. But now we're talking about how do we get this day off, because work is good, but I can't do this the whole time. I need to spend some time with my family. I'm raising these folks, but I don't see them, so that's not fair either. So I'm getting feedback from people that says it's not just about the check. The young people used to always want the money in the check. I'm hearing from young people, I want my money in the annuity. I'm thinking about the future, So the trends and how people think and the way they're going about it, whether it's the way they're educated in the school system or whatever it is, or just how they see the generation before them. I said this the other day. My dad worked every bit of overtime, picked up every check, did everything he could, but he never had a Lamborghini to drive with, and I never saw him. So is it worth trading off a little bit? So I think that's where the trend is going. So does that answer your question exactly? Do I have a certain goal? It is get the feedback and make sure that I represent the membership, and it's their goals that we achieve at the table. Now, it is a negotiation, so can't overpromise. I don't want to underdeliver. We have to be prepared as a whole going into negotiations. So that's where it's going to go, and we are going into negotiations pretty soon. So it's a great question.
One of the things on the EWMC side that we try to push, and this is as far as we can on the labor side, is transparency. We want to see improvement from the leadership in all aspects of transparency, knowing beforehand what's going to be in the contract, knowing how negotiations are going. We know that there's a balance that needs to be met so that we can keep any types of leverage, but being able to have the membership know, their families know what's at stake, what they can get, what they're pushing for, like what do we want to be able to get, what does it look for in uh, your place as business manager, being able to increase that transparency so we can know what's going on the side of the hall because we're all the members, even if there's some in the office, some out in the field.
So, I'm sorry. Yeah. So that's a great question. Again, an interesting question too, because there's some things that you can't do, and that you can. Once the negotiations begin, you can't discuss that with the membership. And I remember last negotiations, there was some information that got out beforehand, and it looked like there was something going on. There wasn't. I'll have to defend right when I see it. So if the business manager or the negotiating team at that point felt if it seemed like they were hiding something, they were. You just aren't supposed to discuss negotiations. The information sharing should happen at that meeting, not before, and then even go back a second and in the information collecting. So this is transparency being, okay, I don't think that we're even going to be able to get that. We're going to put it on the table and give you an idea after you give us the feedback of what our plan of attack might be, what we may be able to get, what our goals are, and then but again, you're negotiating. There's going to be a lot of trade-offs, and there's some things that are going to be crossed off. Or you're going to give up this to get this. It's simple negotiations, but that information sharing, that transparency is important. But it's the feedback, the meetings that we should have before we go into negotiations. That's when you know. That's when you set your goals, and then when you know whether they've been better, or if you felt we did a great job or not. Or you may think, hey, you're not being aggressive. And that's when you hear that. That's when that information is shared. When you're in negotiations, you're not, that discussion shouldn't be happening.
Now we've seen in other local that they have before transparency clauses in their bylaws.
Okay.
To say we want a certain amount of reporting back from the committee during negotiations.
Okay.
Would you be open to that?
That'd be a bylaw change. And I'm open to most things, and yeah, I would have that discussion. I would have the discussion. So I've been negotiating that contract, last two contracts, since about 9 years. So I do have some experience, and it's been our practice to not have that information flow during negotiations or to have negotiations interrupted or paused. And I'd be really interested to see how that works in those other locals. So that's what I'm most curious about and learning from, is that productive or is that counterproductive? And see what they feel like. So, and in any local, you're going to have people say both things, right?
Right.
So that's an interesting way to do things. That's the way it's always been done, and that doesn't mean that's the way it's always got to be done going forward. But it just.
I got one last question. So the current administration, there's been a lot of not nominations, but appointments to certain workforce development boards and all of that. Would you be, if like the business manager, would you be trying to like replace those people? Would you?
So some of those, I didn't start it. Some of those boards are beyond the reach of the business manager. Not the reach, usually the reach, because the current business manager has a lot of influence on that, and he has done good things to put people in those boards. I cannot take away credit where credit is due. But I think, there's no reason why, if you have those positions, to restart. There's no reason to, unless I think there's poor performance not showing up, something like that. But I think that's not the case. It's not been reported to me to be the case. So yeah, I think we should encourage members, whether they're a political opponent or not, or whether they're nominated for this or that. If they're doing a good job and they're moving this industry forward, then there's absolutely no reason for you to change that. And I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
I have a question about like local community going to be, especially having to do with workers' rights and immigrant rights, especially with the resolution that we are working on. Where do you see yourself in that?
So myself personally, very vocal. As when it comes to being the business manager and the principal officer of Local 24, I think it is important to be prudent when it comes to allocating resources. And I think that's what this committee that we set up about the resolution that so I'm put on the floor. And that's the biggest thing. But if you want to know how I feel about it, I'm leaning probably the same way most of the membership is leaning, and I think that we need to do things to protect our community regardless of who they are. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions? Eddie, you have any? You have to ask everybody. You have anything you want to say to the members?
I would just say, hey, listen, I appreciate your support. I hope you understand what I'm trying to do here, and it's been a pleasure serving this local for the last 10 years in this capacity, in several capacities for the local, and then just being a part of this membership. I hope I have your support, and I'll see you on June 21st. Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for everything. Thank you. Thank you.